It's June, it's summer, and it's snowing. You're standing in a field in New England, watching the corn you planted in May turn black under a hard frost. The sun is up there somewhere, the color of weak tea. The air bites like January, and you have no way of knowing that the reason the sky went dim is a mountain on the other side of the planet you've never heard of. This is the year the summer didn't come. In the normal run of things, 1816 should have been forgettable. The Napoleonic Wars had finally ended. Europe was exhausted, but at peace. Farmers expected what farmers always expect: a warm spring, a long summer, a harvest. What they got was frost in July, snow in August, and crop failures stretching from Quebec to China. People reached for explanations. Sunspots, the alignment of the planets, the wrath of God. The one explanation nobody reached for was the correct one, because it had happened 14 months earlier, half a world away, and the news had simply never traveled. And here's the part worth waiting for. This miserable, frozen, starving summer is the reason you know the name Frankenstein. In April of 1815, a mountain called Tambora, on the Indonesian island of Sumbawa, did something mountains are not supposed to do. It exploded. Not a vent, not a lava flow. A detonation so violent, it remains the most powerful volcanic eruption in recorded human history. Tambora blew off the top third of itself, losing nearly 1,500 meters of height and collapsing into a crater 6 kilometers wide. The eruption killed around 10,000 people outright. Tens of thousands more would die in the months that followed, from the famine and disease it set loose. Most estimates put the total near 90,000, though the real figure may be higher. But the bodies were the local damage. The global damage was invisible. Tambora hurled an enormous mass of sulfur gas into the stratosphere, the upper atmosphere, far above the weather, where it spread into a fine haze of droplets that wrapped the entire planet and quietly reflected sunlight back into space. A veil. And under that veil, the whole northern hemisphere began, very slightly, to freeze. That's what people were blaming on sunspots. A mountain had drawn a curtain across the sun, and nobody on Earth made the connection. To live through it was to watch the ordinary world stop working. In New England, the spring of 1816 brought snow in June. In July and August, frost killed whatever had survived. Locals gave the year a grim nickname, 1800, and froze to death. In Europe, grain prices doubled and tripled. Families boiled nettles and weeds. Bread riots broke out across Britain and France. In the northeastern United States, thousands of farmers looked at their black fields, gave up, and started walking west toward Ohio and Indiana, feeding a migration that helped settle the American Midwest. The common assumption is that 1816 was a bad cold snap, a rough year, the kind that comes around now and then. It wasn't. It was a planet with the lights turned down. And the strangest thing to come out of that dimmed summer wasn't the famine or the migration. It was a story. That same summer, on the shores of Lake Geneva, a small group of English travelers found themselves trapped indoors by the same relentless storms. There was the poet Lord Byron, who had rented a grand house called the Villa Diodati. There was his personal physician, John Polidori. And nearby, a young writer named Percy Shelley, his teenage companion Mary Godwin, 18 years old, and her stepsister. The rain would not let up. So to pass the dark, candlelit days, they read German ghost stories aloud, and Byron issued a challenge. Each of them would write a horror story of their own. Mary struggled for days. Then one night she had what she later described as a waking dream, a vision of a pale student kneeling beside the thing he had assembled, watching it stir to life. That vision became Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. And Polidori, taking a fragment Byron had abandoned, wrote The Vampire, the first modern vampire story in English, a forerunner of Dracula. The two creatures that have haunted horror ever since were born in the same house, in the same week, because a volcano kept 5 people inside. Byron's own entry didn't survive as a story, but that summer, in that villa, he watched a day grow so dark that, as he put it, the fowls went to roost at noon and the candles were lighted as at midnight. Out of that came a poem called Darkness, 82 lines imagining a world where the sun simply goes out and the last humans burn their cities for light. He thought he was inventing the apocalypse. He was really just describing the view from his window. Now let's pull back, because the ripples kept going. The cold didn't only kill crops, it killed the animals that ate them. Across Europe, horses starved or were slaughtered for meat as oats became unaffordable. And in the German region of Baden, a forestry official named Karl Dries was paying attention. With horses dying off, he went looking for a way to move a person across distance using nothing but human muscle. In 1817, he unveiled the result: a two-wheeled wooden contraption you straddled and pushed along with your feet. He called it the running machine. We call its descendant the bicycle. Now, historians argue about how direct that line really is. Dries had been tinkering with horseless transport before Tambora ever erupted, and the oat shortage owed something to the recent wars, too. So the Volcano invented the bicycle story is the leading version, not the settled one. But the timing is hard to ignore. The machine built to replace the horse arrived exactly as the horses were dying. Go back to that field in New England. The farmer standing in summer snow, watching his corn blacken, certain the heavens were angry with him. He would live his whole life and die without ever learning the truth, that the sky above him had been dimmed by a mountain he'd never heard of, on an island he couldn't have found on a map, which had detonated more than a year before while he slept. He blamed God. The answer was geology. And everything that came out of that frozen year, the starvation and the westward exodus, and then the monster, the vampire, and the strange little machine built to outrun a dying horse, all of it traces back to a single afternoon when a mountain in Indonesia decided it had had enough and quietly rearranged the next 2 centuries of the human imagination.